we've talked in past episodes about looking to them as what their true level 4 soul identity is like. And so it starts there. And then, so for me, I kind of think if I was compassionate, people don't always think about that. And let's start with self-compassion. It's suffering with others, right? It's having compassion for what they're going through, which means you're suffering with them.
Don't do what most of us do, which is to ask ourselves, can I do that? Wrong question. You have to ask yourself, will I do that? Because we so often act in life like it's somebody else's call whether things happen to us. It's luck, it's God, it's Stacey, whether he'll have it happen, whatever. Where the real power is you making a commitment to burn your ships and not make it just an intention so you can step out if it didn't happen and blame circumstances or whatever. You've got to really decide, I will do this. When I started doing this work 25 years ago, I said, this is too important not to do, so I will do this. I will provide this program to people because it's what's best for them. I may lose everything. I may lose the house and end up in a trailer and all that, but this is more important than my comfort. This is more important than my certainty. This is more important than my life. Because if I can do this 83 years or whatever I have here is going to matter, because I've been allowed to touch the soul of Stacey Harding or any number of other people, and not had it be about me, but had it be about connecting them with their source.
Hello, Stacey Harding here and Killeen with episode 6 of fourth level conversations. So Al, we are in between Christmas and New Year's, and I'm hopeful that you had a wonderful time of Christmas with your family. Hopefully everybody that's watching did. We're kind of at that time of year where people have started thinking about next year, and we have as well. And I found it kind of interesting as I was thinking about it that this time of year, we stop making these New Year's resolutions because, it's not the thing to do anymore, because we tend to think we're going to go to the gym, and on January 2nd, we go for the 2 or 3 days and we stop. So resolutions don't really typically get fulfilled, but we do set goals and we have desires. And I was thinking about my own life and some of the experiences I've had I've done that. And then I get to the end of the year and I look back and I go, did I just repeat the previous year again? I wanted to change a bunch of stuff, but looking back, it all seems familiar. So Al, welcome to the episode, and I'll let you chime in as we get started.
Well, yeah, welcome. Merry belated Christmas and happy early New Year's and all that, Stacey. And yeah, it's an intriguing time of year because it's all about the holidays and family and all of that, and yet, a lot of statistics would show that this is the time of year when a lot of people tend to go off the rails, and they tend to have depression, or they have alcohol issues, or they have whatever occur. And, so I was thinking about some client calls I've had here this week, and I realized that what I've found myself thinking about is now looking into 2024. The way I normally go about it is I try to kind of stay in flow and stay in the moment, which is great as a moment to moment approach. But am I really setting out intentionality and then a game plan for next year that has some organization to it? And that had me thinking about this story in my head I've had forever that says if you and I were sitting here, I'm in my home here in Tennessee. If you and I were sitting in Tennessee and I said, hey, Stacey, let's drive to Seattle. And you said, okay. So we get in the car. There's really two strategies we could follow. We could hop in the car and say, now, where is it? It's north and east, right? No, north and west. Okay, north and west. Well, all right. So let's head west for a while. All right. So we head west, we get to Memphis, we keep going west, we get to Little Rock, we keep going west, we get to Texas. And now somewhere in here, don't we have to start going? Yeah. So we'd take a ride and we'd go up to Denver and then we'd go up to Billings. And don't we have to go? And we'd take a left. We'd get there, but it would be a very meandering, inefficient way. That's how most of us go about our years, is we meander through the year. And now and then we have some manager come along and say, Stacey, you got to set your goals, man. What are you going to do this? And so we lie to them because we want to make sure that they don't fire us and they're happy and they think we're really ambitious. So we over project, oh, I'm going to do, I don't know. And then we hope to God they don't ever check because we really have no real intention to do it. We hope, we wish for it. But we don't have any real intention in terms of commitment or execution to do it other than as long as I don't have to break my routine. Well, back to going to Seattle, what somebody who wanted to do it most efficiently and intelligently and would do is get out their Apple phone and look at maps and say, what's the most direct route? They would plan the route. And so to me, our theme today ought to be creating the roadmap for your 2024. And not so much just with what you're going to accomplish and accumulate and all of that, but really about sort of as the first step in getting into the habit of creating a life by design that has you actually plan out, and we have a process we'll discuss with the folks of how to do it, plan out what you want to have happen next year that you're willing to do your part and pay the price to have happen next year. One more thing I'll share with you. I went into my wife yesterday and said, I think I'm going to write 3 books next year. I've got these 3 ideas, and she's like, wow, that's big. Yeah. Now, have I committed to it? No, but now I'm doing lazy circles around whether I want to commit to it, because if I identify something I think would be a good thing or I want to do, then the next thing is I've got to decide whether I'm willing to commit to it, because if I commit to it, that means I burn my ships and I do whatever necessary to actually pay the price and do it, even if it's inconvenient, unless I'm in the hospital or I die, that's what's going to happen. That's really the spirit of creating a roadmap for 2024. So I'm inviting Stace for you and I to have a podcast today to help people think differently about 2024 from the idea that they're going to actually create an efficient map to Seattle, an efficient roadmap for their 2024 in the various domains of their life, of not just what they want to accomplish, but why they want to create these outcomes for next year, and to get an all-in commitment of a willingness to pay the price necessary, whatever it turns out to be, to accomplish it. Therefore, make sure what it is that you want is worth what it's going to take from you as payment. So what's your thoughts about all of that?
Yeah, perfect. I think it's a great topic for this episode as we're moving into the new year with new opportunities and new possibilities. And I was thinking about why we get so excited about what we can achieve in the coming year, but so often we fall short. And I think maybe, Al, it comes down to a few things that you've talked about in previous books, actually. And I'm thrilled to hear you're thinking about doing that. I can't wait to read them. But one is this idea of intentions versus commitments. And I think that's what New Year's resolutions have been in the past, is intentions.
Yeah.
They weren't really commitments. We weren't really going to burn the bridges or the ships to accomplish that. We were just intending to do it because, hey, if we happen to pull it off, it'll be a good thing. But life's okay. I survived last year not doing it, so I'll be okay if I don't. And so I think having that plan, and obviously most of the people that might be listening have been in professional life and they've worked on business plans, and maybe even they've been exposed to the idea of life planning or life by design, as you mentioned. And I think about, most of the time when we come and talk about these things, it's because of things we've experienced personally or we've learned by reading and research and all those things. But I can look back over my 6 decades of life and know that when I've really made change, it's because I was sold out to the why. The desired outcome, the desired future was greater than the pain of discipline that it was going to take to get there. And oftentimes when I've looked back and I failed at something that I intended to do, I realized that it didn't have full commitment because it just wasn't compelling enough. And so
Mm-hmm.
we can pretend to hear ourselves say it's the why is important enough. Oftentimes the why that we give is because somebody else told us we should have it. Particularly if you're employed by an employer and you have a boss or a manager or supervisor, there's, I used to manage when I was managing people, I kind of set out two things. There's a minimum standard in sales that you've got to achieve, right? And then there's the expectation. Well, I don't want you to hit the minimum. I want you to hit the expectation. And so what I probably made a mistake in doing that is people heard, well, he's okay with the expectation, or he wants the expectation, but he's okay if I just hit the minimum. And so oftentimes the why is given to us instead of it being who we want to become. We were talking earlier this morning about being something, becoming something, not just doing things. So I'm excited to hear more of your thoughts on this.
Well, I love where you're starting with this because I think we need to look at the why. I think we need to look at various domains of life. And I think we need to look at what an effective methodology is for this planning. And we'll do all that in this podcast. But I think you're spot on. Nietzsche had a wonderful saying I'm fond of. He who has a large enough why can bear with almost any how. And it's certainly impacted my life when I awakened the why of creating IMP and doing the work that I'm doing. But I think a good place to start with this, Stacey, is actually your story because you've really honored me and frankly blessed me with friendship over the last 3 or 4 months, and we knew of each other for 25 years and we weren't really friends. We were just sort of pleasant colleagues at a distance.
Mm-hmm.
But you've now come into my life and become this dear friend and now a colleague who's with Hourglass, providing IMP systems and services and all that to people. And then you've been this lifelong executive, this icon. You're a guy that belongs to an expensive country club and plays a great game of golf, and you've got this wonderful life that you've lived and are living. But you've gone through a dramatic sea change in just sitting in the front row watching you, just in a few months, of your why, of why you're doing this, or why did you create Hourglass Consulting? Why are you in this relationship with me? Why in the heck are you spending these every week doing podcasts for people that may feel like you're shouting into the wind and nobody's listening, and yet you're doing it? Why, Stacey?
Yeah, Al, that's what a great setup for me to share that with everyone. I think a lot of times when we're adults and we're building families, we're building careers, one of the primary whys is we need to make money. And I was no different than that. And I had a desire to provide nice things for my family, my children. And so God provided opportunities for me to do that. And I got to work with some amazing organizations and amazing people. But somewhere in my soul along the way, whether it was from my childhood or along the way, there's this deep yearning for it to be far more than that we go through this life, and at the end, we're all going to look back and we're going to, maybe we already do it, and we have an evaluation of what we've committed ourselves to. So what did we burn our ships to or our bridges to? Was it worthwhile? And I'm not for 1 second saying that my professional career in the mortgage industry wasn't worthwhile. It was. And I pray and hope that people felt positively impacted by their interaction and involvement with me. But the transformation for me at this point is really all about what I want to be to the world. I want to be light. I want to be an illuminator to the possibility of joy and happiness and peace and freedom and free of worry and anxiety. I want to be the light to help someone see that perhaps the path they're on is going to be destructive. I've done it myself. And I'd love to help people avoid some of the challenges that I've had to go through. But for me, Al, the why is I want to help people experience the best life they possibly can while they're in this physical form. What I get in return for that is I get the fulfillment and joy and peace and happiness of being that. And so for me, about Hourglass Consulting Group, I really thought about a name for that company, and the hourglass, the image of that we have this hourglass full of sand when we start this life. And over time, it's dissipating. It's dropping out through that hourglass. And every time, once in a while, we get to flip it over again. At least we feel like we do, to start again. And that's okay. That's a subset. It's a smaller hourglass inside the hourglass. And I think that's fine. But that's it. I think we have a limited amount of time in this life. And what I wanted to do was find an environment where I could help people be the best they can possibly be, but from a soul level, not just from an intelligent level that if I figure out these disciplines, I'll have more business, I'll make more money. I think what we teach leads to that, but it's not because that's the focus. The focus is in, if you become the most authentic person being driven in your life by your values and your character, I promise you, and you and I know this, people are attracted to that. Business is attracted to that. We've all heard people say people do business with people they like. You will be very likable if you're coming from an authentic heart, soul position in your interaction and your ability to connect with people. But I needed to align with Killeen and Integrative Mastery Programs because there's a proven process to help people do that. Al, you've been doing this for a quarter of a century. Thousands of people have experienced the opportunity for the type of coaching leadership that you've provided. And so for me, I'll finish up. It's just about I'm becoming more of what I've always wanted to be, which is selfless in the service of others. And I think we get a chance to do that.
Yeah, so that's beautiful, Stacey. So what I hear your why to be is a drive for self-actualization so that you will spend the gift of your life that God gave you in such a way that you can, in a sense, pay God back by living up to its fullest optimization, which will happen by you doing all you can do to create a knowing, an enlightenment, an awakening that you can serve other people with to help them have that same enlightening, awakening, whatnot, including abundance economically and materially, but beyond that to a sense of personal meaning and purpose. And I think part of which is beautiful, and I think part of having that why, for me, when it happened for me when I was 48 and I'd gotten fired from a company I built up, was I went through a process in Detroit with some folks, and they began to give me a glimpse of, there's a gazillion programs out there, and I was always disappointed ultimately. They felt like cotton candy. They tasted great on the front end. They were attractive. They knew how to sell me and attract me. But I started looking for when I was going to be disappointed by them not really living up to what I thought they were going to provide for me. They could help me make more money or whatever, but I came away often feeling a sense of it was a little oversold and it really underdelivered. And so when I created IMP, I thought, I want to reverse all that, and I want to have people be the proof of the truth of the program. And I don't want to disappoint people like I've been disappointed. So I created a personalized vision, because once we have a why, I think it's helpful to have a reminder statement of that why that has us tap back into the passion of that why that allows us to get past the tough moments when clients aren't coming, or when we go through our own depression or our own life stuff or our own whatever, how to kind of come back to the why. So I create a personalized vision. I know you have too, Stacey. In my case, 24 years ago, I created a statement that says this: my personalized vision is a world where all people realize their fullest potential, a world of extraordinary relationships and extraordinary accomplishments, and a world where integrity and honorable actions are courageously pursued and commonly experienced. Now, that's more than a lot of flowery words. It really captures what I think of as my soul journey while in human form, that I have an opportunity to try to come as close as possible to living up to. And the way for that to happen is to essentially commit myself that when I come across anybody, it might be somebody standing in line at the grocery store, it might be the waitress at lunch, it might be a client, it might be a friend like you, Stacey, that if I can see something that they're going through automatically I realize, my covenant with God, whatever God is, my covenant with God is I am to be a force for good in this person's life by helping them become all they can become, reach their fullest potential, create extraordinary relationships with other people, accomplish extraordinary things, and practice honor and integrity with courage, because that will lead to a good life for them. And if I can help others lead to a good life for themselves and arm them with the power to trust life, frankly, coming from a life where I so often not trusted life, and I've been depressed and suicidal and I've done all those things, that would be a good way for me to spend my life. So I committed my last 25 years to that, to give this statement. What's that personal life vision statement for you, Stacey, that then took your why and put it into some nomenclature, some words that you can hang on the wall and remind yourself when you lose your way, as we start to develop this step-by-step of how to plan your 2024? What's your personal life vision, Stacey?
Yeah. So before I share it with you, when we went through this process together, and that's a process we coach people through, it was illuminating to me about myself, right? And so when we think about this idea of a personal life vision, you might think, if you're listening to this, it's about a selfishness thing, that, well, it's not what I want. Well, really what it is what I want to be to the world and what I'd love to see the world be. It's something bigger than my intellectual desire to be selfish.
Right.
And so mine says this: my personal life vision is a world where people have unconditional positive regard for themselves and others, where hearts are full of compassion, kindness, and generosity, and where enlightened minds change the world, bringing peace and freedom to all.
Beautiful.
And so when I talk about that, the positive regard, it starts with me. I mean, I don't know if anybody's listening that you're your biggest critic, but I promise you, as hard as people may have judged me in my life for decisions I've made or things I've done, they can't come anywhere close to what I've done to myself. And so it's got to start with me for positive regard for myself. And then if I can do that for myself, then I'm capable of having positive regard. There is good in every human interaction that we have. I get there's violence and there's evil in the world. I get it. But for the most part, 99% of the time we are dealing with people, there's goodness in them. Even if momentarily they're operating at a level 3 ego based behavioral model, okay, we'll get past that. We've talked in past episodes about looking to them as what their true level 4 soul identity is like. And so it starts there. And then so for me, I kind of think if I was compassionate, people don't always think about that. And let's start with self-compassion. It's suffering with others, right? It's having compassion for what they're going through, which means you're suffering with them. And so if I can do that, so I'm empathetic, I'm able to connect, and I'm able to relate. I'm not some phony person that just says I care, but I really don't. I really care at the deepest level of my soul. If I can be kind, I mean, my goodness, if we just had more kindness in the world, I think what we'd live in. And it can't just be, it's interesting. What my goal is that everybody thinks it's a random act of kindness that I've done today. It's not. It's just my character. I was just kind because that's who I am. It might have seemed random, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
And then the generosity. I mean, we're so blessed in this country and in the roles that we've played. Let's be generous to people. And then enlightened minds. And that's what we talk a lot about at IMP and Hourglass, is there is an awakening that people really have the opportunity to go through if they'll allow themselves to see what's possible and understand that everything today is perfect as it is. Put aside all the narratives of what you've had in the past and what you think your future is, and be aware. Start seeing things that you didn't see before. And that's what's happened to me. You asked me earlier, Al, about my story. I've been awakened. I've got deeper consciousness than I've ever had. And it's not some mystical thing that people might think we're talking about. It's not. It's an epiphany. We use that word. The epiphany seems to be okay in the world, Al. I'm not so sure about mystic. But we go through this awakening. And then if there's enough people in the world that do that, we're going to start to see greater degrees of peace and freedom. And I'm not talking about stopping wars. I hope that happens someday. But I'm talking about in the relationships that we have every single day. Can we have peace? Can we have freedom in those? Non-judgment, unconditional love and regard. That's a long answer. Your
Well,
statement.
no, that's beautiful. So really where we are so far in this discussion with folks of how to design your 2024 is you got to have a why. And that why is going to have more power if it's from a larger place than your ego and your greed and your image in the world. It should be from your values that are the language of your soul. It should be a reflection of your character as you would want others to see and as you want to know it to be and you want God to know it to be. It's to be a personification of the values you hold most dear in life. Start from that place and then apply it to yourself and to the life you're going to live. And then in my opinion, there's a few other pieces to the pie here in planning your roadmap for the next year. You have to make sure you stay aware to not be too unilateral in terms of which domain of life you're looking at. We too often set goals just in the realm of money or business or power or promotions. So it tends to be awfully materialistic, and it tends to be about career and all of that. But you'll want to have an eye on the domains of your life, including your relationships overall, your family, your health, your spiritual walk, your enjoyment, entertainment, recreation, as well as your career and your money and acquisitions. You're gonna want to look over the domains of your life and realize that this roadmap you're designing should include all of those domains. It shouldn't just be a single or one or two of them, because you'll then find that it creates disparity in your life, because you'll be like Ronald Reagan said about the Soviet Union when he was talking about their military compared to their economy. He said they're like a midget with a big right arm. Now, midget may not be politically correct any longer, but essentially, I think that's how I think of it when we tend to over focus on career. What do? We look back and realize we've lost families, we've lost friendships, we've lost health, all because we put all of our chips on somehow becoming a CEO of this or that and making money. So look at all the domains of your life, and then start. Stephen Covey had a thing in the 7 Habits of start with the end in mind. I'm a believer, and I'll just share my approach to this, Stacey, and then I'll ask you to do the same in kind. So create the why, create a personalized vision statement based on your values. My books have them, and we can help you do that. Look at the domains of your life to make sure you're covering the bases and everywhere, so that this becomes almost an upward spiral of all the domains of your life that you're considering in your 2024 roadmap. And then start with the end in mind. And my recommended approach is ask yourself, what do you want it all to look like December 31st of 2024 with your career, with your economics, with your health, with your relationships, with your family, with your spiritual domain, with your entertainment and joy and experiences this coming year. Start a year from now, and then ask yourself, to get there, where do I have to be in each of those domains by the end of the third quarter? And to get there, where do I have to be by the end of the second quarter? And to get there, where do I have to be at the end of the first quarter? And to get to the end of the first quarter, where do I have to be in the second month, the first month, and then the first week? And lay out those levels of how to create this step-by-step approach that's quite logical in attainment. And you'll be thrown off. It isn't going to happen the way you think it's going to happen. You could be surprised. So you don't want to get too tight and too specific, in my opinion, with numbers and all that. It needs to be more trends. It needs to be more generalities in a way, because that gives God room to move in introducing surprises and whatnot that you have. But then make sure that you lay out this roadmap for all the domains from the right why. And then last piece, and I'll shut up. Don't do what most of us do, which is to ask ourselves, can I do that? Wrong question. You have to ask yourself, will I do that? Because we so often act in life like it's somebody else's call whether things happen to us. It's luck, it's God, it's Stacey, whether he'll have it happen, whatever. Where the real power is you making a commitment to burn your ships and not make it just an intention so you can step out if it didn't happen and blame circumstances or whatever. You've got to really decide, I will do this. When I started doing this work 25 years ago, I said, this is too important not to do, so I will do this. I will provide this program to people because it's what's best for them. I may lose everything. I may lose the house and end up in a trailer and all that, but this is more important than my comfort. This is more important than my certainty. This is more important than my life. Because if I can do this 83 years or whatever I have here is going to matter, because I've been allowed to touch the soul of Stacey Harding or any number of other people, and not had it be about me, but had it be about connecting them with their source, however they see that source, and in doing so, shift their relationship with life to see this to be the blessing that it actually is, versus the arduous prison camp of earnest effort with disappointment we too often experience it be from our level 3 ego. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, perfect. So Al, you developed a tool. What you just described was a plan for your life in 2024, and you created a tool called the Echo of Empowerment, E of E. Yeah. And that is available, a tool that we can provide to folks if they're interested in that. And I think it was truly a revelation to you, as you've shared with me how that came to you. And so we've got about another minute or so. Maybe you just share your experience in developing that. So it's not just you can say, hey, think of what you want to be at the end and where you need to be at each quarter. There's actually a tool that can help you do that.
Okay. And I that's great, Stacey. So we're not going to share what the tool is. If you want to know what it is, reach out to Stacey or me, and we'll get you a copy of the tool. The story, how it came about, though, very briefly, is my oldest son was going to go off to school at a very expensive college in California. And I spent a lot of time tossing and turning, figuring out how I was going to pay for this, because I'm comfortable, but I'm not wealthy to where I can put out $50,000 a year for a school in California in 2006 without feeling it. And then I had another one behind him I had to pay for. So I figured, well, I don't want to eat Alpo when I'm retired. And, so how do I fund this? And I spent 6 weeks tossing and turning, trying to figure out how to do it. One night, just my wife got tired of me tossing around, said, you ought to, you keep me awake. Can you sleep somewhere else? Sure. So I went downstairs, slept in the basement, and I had this revelation. Now, I 50 years ago, I spent some time with a holy man from India, and he had an interesting thing he told me. He said, always pay attention to the last dream of the night, because it's when God is talking to you most directly. Well, this night, I'm laying in the basement asleep, and the last dream of the night, I had this tool occur to me in a dream, Stacey, and I woke up out of this dream, and I was so excited. I hurried into my office, which was right in the next room, and I sketched it out on a piece of paper. And then in 5 minutes, I solved the issue of how to fund my son's college, an issue I'd been struggling with for 6 weeks. I got so excited, I thought, what else is bothering me? I solved 6 other major issues using this tool, and then I decided to incorporate it into my program. And it's I don't know about all of you, but I'm not particularly turned on by, and no offense, Microsoft, but by Microsoft Project or Gantt charts or any of that. Yeah, they work, but they're pretty cold to me. It's just very kind of linear. This is a visual tool that allows for a really more holistic approach to planning. And so it's a wonderful suggestion, Stacey. Anybody that would like to know how this tool works, reach out to Stacey Harding at Hourglass or myself at IMP, Integrative Mastery, and we'll get you a copy of it. We'll take a few minutes on the phone and talk to you about how to use it, because it really works quite magnificently. I've had people create companies with this. I've had people do all sorts of things with this. So bring us home, Stacey, on another wonderful podcast this morning that I've enjoyed doing with you, and I hope is giving people some ideas on how to plan the roadmap for their 2024. Bring us home, brother.
Absolutely. Well, I can be a testament to the Echo of Empowerment. I started our company through that process, and so it helped me stay focused and get it done right. So thank you, Al, for that. So as we conclude this episode, and we are sitting here again right at the edge of 2023 moving into 2024, we really hope that you can take the time to really contemplate what you're going to do different in the coming year to make sure that you get to the end of the year and say, that was one of my best years. So often people get to the end of the year and they say, man, I'm glad this year is over. And I assure you that many of us that are on this podcast today are thinking that. But let's not do that in 2024. Let's not be a victim to circumstances. It's not can we, it's will we. And so make a determination of what you will do. And if you'd like us to help you focus on that, we're happy to do that. Otherwise, we hope you can do it well. Al, another great podcast. Anything you'd like to end with?
Just blessings and love to everyone for their 2024 and life thereafter. You know, folks, we're all here on temporary assignment. And the biggest regret we will have when this assignment ends is whether or not we spent too much time projecting and worrying about what could happen in favor of what Stacey said earlier, simple kindness. I guided spiritual retreats for decades, and I had a lady at one 10 years ago, Cindy Emerine, that some of you may know, a wonderful woman. And Cindy came to this retreat, and it was probably 10, 12 years ago, and she said, you know, I just want to be an experience of kindness for other people. And that always stuck with me because kindness is something you hear, but how often do we really think about it? So if nothing else, I hope everyone here and myself included decide that one of the things we're going to incorporate on our roadmap in 2024 is just the quiet kindness of who we are and how we treat other people, because that alone will make your 2024 more valuable and make you a good force in the lives of others. Brother, thank you. I'm so grateful you've come into my world this year as you have, and that we're doing this work together. And blessings to all of our listeners here. What do you have to say to bring us home?
Yeah, thanks for that. Same right back at you, brother. I love you. Just happy New Year, everyone. Have a great 2024. And I hope that we can all get to the end and say, man, that was a great year. Let's do it again.
We made it to Seattle.
All right. Take care.
Blessings, brother. Bye-bye.
Take care.